Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very accomplished entrepreneur from Bangalore, India, Mr. Rohit Bagaria. Rohit, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh.
Thank you. Rohit is the founder and the chief vision officer of Budli.in. He's a Zentrepreneur, and we'll ask him what a Zentrepreneur is, driving change in India through re-commerce, which is reverse commerce of used gadgets like smartphones, tablets, and laptops. Rohit is on a mission to provide 100 million people access to affordable technology through re-commerce. And Rohit, because of all his achievements, has won awards like the Startup of the Year, the EO Emerging Entrepreneur of the Year, CNBC Future of India Business Excellence, Action for India Best Social Enterprise Award, and Business Leadership Award. So Rohit, let me start by asking you the question. You call yourself a Zentrepreneur. Help me understand the meaning of this term and what got you started.
So this is just combining the Zen philosophy with entrepreneurship. It's about creating and running a socially conscious business. And my motivation has always been in being able to create impact with what I do.
Okay. So let's talk about Budli then. Tell me a little bit about Budli and what is the vision behind it?
So Budli, as you know, means change in Hindi. And we're working on bridging the digital divide and reducing e-waste through re-commerce of used gadgets. Now, if you look at the scenario today, now currently anyone with a smartphone and internet connection has access to more information than maybe what the US president had 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
That is the power that we all have in our pockets today. There are still about 400 million people in India who don't have access to devices. And if you look at it, technology is radically changing the lives of millions of people, whether it is in education, healthcare, financial services, utilities. And the medium through which this technology is being accessed is the smartphone. So our vision is to drive the change in being able to give access to devices to those who cannot afford it. And that is the change that we are looking to drive.
Fantastic.
And while doing so, also reducing e-waste.
Wonderful. And when, we've all heard of e-commerce, but you use the word re-commerce. How do you define re-commerce?
So reverse commerce is the process of getting pre-owned devices back into the market. This has been a primarily unorganized space in India, but I think the space is ripe for disruption, and going forward, it will not remain so unorganized.
Well said. And based on all the research that you've been doing for your own business, how important is the challenge of reverse commerce of used gadgets?
So like I mentioned, this has been primarily an unorganized market in India. So there are lots of challenges in this segment. One of the biggest challenges is in creating awareness. And the second is in building trust. There have been, in the unorganized market, there have been all kinds of challenges in terms of people who want to sell their devices, and second is people who want to buy the devices.
Correct.
Now, what we are looking at basically solving for both these segments is in providing reliability, convenience, and value for money. These are the three things that we're looking at solving for.
And when you talk about refurbishing a lot of these gadgets, what is the process you follow, and how do you ensure the buyer gets the quality that they are looking for?
So we have our own SOP from the time the devices come to us. It goes through a quality check process. We follow 25-point quality check process, which is quite stringent. It covers the functional and cosmetic parameters of any device. Then it goes through a gradation process. And based on the gradation, the refurbishment is decided. So for example, if phone screen needs to be changed, or maybe a battery needs to be changed, or there's some other part which needs to be fixed. So we will do that. And in some cases, the phone cannot be refurbished. Then we use the parts. And if not anything is not usable, then we give it to our e-waste partners. So we make sure that the device is handled in an environmentally responsible way.
And like what I've been seeing is happening with, say, used cars, where they basically buy and sell simultaneously, and one company actually takes the car into their stocks. What is the process you follow? Do you take these used devices into your stock, or do you just trade it?
No, so we buy back the devices and it goes through a quality check. We refurbish it and then we resell it with warranty.
I see. Okay. So it is something like Budli certified
Yes,
product.
yes.
Wonderful. You also just spoke about, Rohit, about solving the e-waste problem. Tell me a little bit more about how you will handle this e-waste challenge, because all these devices are creating a mountain of problems because of e-waste. And uh, how are you being able to promote sustainability?
So, as the need for devices is growing, the e-waste that is being accumulated across India is growing rapidly. And there is still not as much awareness about this as much as it is in many developed countries. And I think it needs to increase quite a lot. Now, we are not directly into the e-waste handling. There are other companies that are specialized in that. But through the work that we are handling, we are preventing e-waste from accumulating by extending the life cycle of a device.
Correct.
So through the work that we have done, we have prevented 5,000 tons of CO2 from being emitted into the atmosphere.
And just help me, tell me a little bit more about how you've managed to get this 5,000 tons of CO2 not being released in the atmosphere.
So, like I said, we are ensuring that the life cycle of a device is extended. People mostly, when they buy the used device, the new devices, they leave the used devices in a drawer somewhere losing value, which ends up becoming e-waste. Now, the average life cycle of a device is usually much more. People, especially like for smartphones, people are changing it every 2 years. But the device can be used for a much longer period of time.
Correct.
So we are being able to provide these devices to those who cannot afford it, extending the life cycle. And we are also making sure that at the end of the life cycle, it is being handled in an environmentally responsible way.
Interesting. So when I was reading about you and preparing for this conversation, I also read about your Device to Dream program. Tell me about the impact of COVID to your Device to Dream program.
Sure. So, like I mentioned, the vision of Budli was to use e-commerce to bridge the digital divide and reduce e-waste. Now, COVID was a huge catalyst in our space. It was quite difficult during the lockdown, where all of us were stuck at home and operations were suspended during that time. But once the lockdown opened up, then we saw a huge need for devices. Everybody needed devices for work from home and online learning. And millions of underprivileged children didn't have access to devices. And they couldn't continue their education because most of the education moved online. So that is when a lot of NGOs started approaching us regarding the need for devices. So, and we partnered with NGOs like CRY, Akanksha, Parikrama, Bharati Foundation, and many others. And we also partnered with corporates like Times of India Group, who helped in creating awareness to get people to donate devices. So through this Device to Dream program, thousands of people started donating the used devices, which we are collecting free of cost, refurbishing, and providing to these NGOs for distribution to the underprivileged children, so they could continue their education.
Very interesting. And does this program still continue?
It is, but the schools have all started now. So the need for devices for continuing their education is not there as much. But nevertheless, I mean, the need for devices still exists.
Okay.
We still enable people to donate the used devices through the program.
And my next question is, what is the process you follow to accept used gadgets on your platform? And what is the process that you follow to be able to refurbish it?
So anyone who wants to sell their used device can instantly discover the value of their used device through a technology algorithm called DIPS, Dynamic Instant Pricing System, which we have built. So you choose the model, select the specification, condition, and you get instant price discovery online. Then we arrange free pickup across India. We partner through our logistics partners, through which we cover 25,000 pin codes across India, and we verify and pay the user. After that, it goes through our quality check process, it gets graded, refurbished, and then it is sold with warranty.
And the pricing for these used gadgets, uh, there's of course a price that you pay for buying a used gadget, but after refurbishing, how do you determine the price?
So typically, the number one reason for anybody buying a refurbished device is value for money. They should save substantially compared to buying a new device.
Correct.
The number of people who are so aware that they want to reduce their carbon footprint and want to use a sustainable device is still not as many in India as it is in many developed countries. That awareness is also growing. But in terms of value for money, we enable people to buy refurbished devices at anywhere up to 70% off the new device price.
Okay. And when you are buying the gadgets, you must be getting gadgets which are either in working condition or which are not in working condition. What do you do with devices that arrive which are not in working condition?
So the devices which have some defects, it is either refurbished and made working. In case it cannot be refurbished or the cost of refurbishment is too high, we use the spare parts. And whatever cannot be used, we will give it to our e-waste partners.
But then that must be a huge amount of inventory that you are building up, isn't it?
So that is why we only buy the devices which have a value, which we can monetize. For every device that we collect, we incur handling and logistics costs. We should be able to recover that and create some value addition for the customers going forward.
And how do you at Budli.in differentiate yourself from other similar platforms which are also selling refurbished products?
So like I mentioned, this space has been primarily unorganized. We are one of the pioneers in this space in India. And we are still probably the only ones who are able to enable people to sell their devices across India from across 25,000 pin codes. Now, even though there are a few other players who are selling their used devices online and selling refurbished devices online, but still this is primarily an unorganized space.
Right.
Most of this market is still offline and most of it is unorganized. And that is still our biggest competition. And most of the customers, they face issues in buying these refurbished devices and the second-hand devices from unorganized players. There are issues like there is a lack of transparency as to the source of the device. A lot of stolen devices get circulated into the system.
Correct.
Then there are fake devices as well. There is no warranty. There is no quality assurance. There is a lack of choices available. So we are looking to solve all these problems.
Interesting. But the other thing that intrigues me about the way you're doing your business is that after refurbishing it and you are a national brand, how do you offer after sales service on a refurbished product?
So typically we provide 6 months warranty for the refurbished devices.
Correct.
And we do it through our service partners across India.
Okay. So you've set up a full network of service partners. Wow. It's quite amazing. My next question to you, Rohit, is that given the demand for refurbished gadgets, how do you see it evolving in the coming years? And what role do you see Budli playing in that?
So if you look at an average layman in India today, the term refurbished wasn't even understood by a person here. Now, in developed countries, refurbished devices are quite common. And it's very common for people to use it. When I was in the US, I was using a refurbished laptop. I thought it was a smarter choice. I was getting something at a lower price point with quality assurance from a trusted source with warranty. But in India, I didn't have that option. The only option that existed for me was the unorganized market. Now, I think the acceptance of these refurbished devices is much more. And even larger players like Amazon and Flipkart have started to offer these on their platforms. I think this will help increase the awareness and acceptability of refurbished devices and only increase the market.
And do you see after the first stage of refurbishment, because, as you said, the devices have 2-3 years life. So say a brand new product has 2-3 years life and then it gets kind of comes to Budli and then you refurbish and sell it on. 3 years from now, do you see it adding to e-waste, or do you see getting refurbished again and going deeper into India?
So as per research, the average life cycle of a device is at least 5 to 6 years. And every phone can actually pass through 3 change of hands before the end of its product life cycle. People are replacing especially for smartphones, it is within 2 years that they're replacing it. So there is still a potential life ahead of it if it is handled in a proper way.
Okay, so I have time for two more questions for you. My next question is that, you're currently in smartphones, tablets, and laptops. Do you have any plans to get into other electronic products beyond these three or other categories completely?
So we have ventured into smaller product categories like smart speakers and wearables like smartwatches. But we currently are not looking to get into larger appliances like TVs, fridges, appliances like washing machines, etc. And the main reason for that is because like I said, we are a pan-India company, and the logistics cost for those would be quite high. So currently, we want to grow vertically and deeper into these segments that we want currently in.
Okay. And my last question to you, Rohit, and this is for the thousands of people who will listen to our conversation. Based on your amazing journey as an entrepreneur, what would you say are 3 lessons you have learned as an entrepreneur that you would like our viewers and listeners to take away?
I think entrepreneurship is essentially about problem solving. And I think as entrepreneurs, we go through lots of challenges and lots of ups and downs in the journey. And I think 3 things are very important in this journey. One is clarity, in being able to be clear in terms of what you want to achieve. Second is certainty. You need to have a lot of self-confidence to overcome the different challenges in the journey.
Yeah.
And third is purpose. Why you do what you do.
Yeah.
I think these 3 things are essential in the journey of an entrepreneur.
Very interesting. And on that note, Rohit, then your amazing lessons, which is you said that every entrepreneur needs to have the clarity, they need to have the certainty or the self-confidence, and the third one is they have to have a very clear sense of purpose. Thank you so much for speaking to me about Budli. I've learned many new things from you today about re-commerce. Thank you for talking to me about how you seem to be changing the paradigm for smartphones, tablets, and laptops, which, as you say very correctly, after the first user uses them, still has a lot of life in them. Thank you also for talking to me about how you are going to be able to promote sustainability using Budli, the strategy of Budli. And finally, thank you for talking to me about how you follow the process of refurbishment and making sure that the customer gets a good deal. Thank you again, and good luck to you.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.